Welcome to our hot seat for the Scroggins Business Academy. As we've been talking to you about, this is not theory, this is not conjecture, this is practical information that helps you stop the leaks from your business profit and build a business that will reward you for many days into the future. And today's episode is no different. We're putting Alex Moody from Skyline Electric in the hot seat to talk about the history and the experience that he's had with business turnaround and business expansion, business growth, and really focused on the profit. Alex, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure in sunny Arizona to be here talking to you today.
I am so thankful. I know you and I have worked together in many capacities, but what we're going to be talking about today is the focus on our work in your business from a couple of years ago. You literally went from staring $500,000 in debt to and not really knowing which way to go, to a company that is highly profitable and really sustaining you in a lot of ways. Can you kind of talk about what was your experience before we even met? Like, what were the conditions of the business? What was happening in your mind, heart, and spirit during that time?
Yeah. So I started my business in 2018. I was a union electrician for 10 years. And, one day I just got a wild hair and I just decided to start a business and, I had no background. Like, I am an electrician, plain business owner, and, made a lot of early mistakes, having too many people in the office, not paying attention to the bottom line, not really even understanding, I think one of the biggest things that we kind of figured out initially, which still this day it cracks me up, but is markup versus profit margins, which are two separate things. And, we're thinking that we're charging 50% profit margins, but we're just marking it up 50%, and it's not the same thing. And once we kind of figured that out, it really changed, the game of everything. But, really just...
Talk about specifically, like, because I know when you and I first met, you had a whole story, like
Sure.
The pressure, the stress, kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of people might not even know why they're feeling the way they're feeling in their businesses right now.
Well, I think initially it was trying to do everything myself was a big killer, and not delegating enough, not putting people in the right positions, carrying the burden, carrying the stress of everything. And then just there's that balance that you have to have. And there was I had no boundaries. I had no balance. I had just really no idea what I was doing, to be honest with you. And so you're going after everything. What I've learned is, like, there's times to say no and there's times to say yes.
Yes.
And you don't want every job that comes your way. And just really, it was really painful.
Yeah.
It was really painful.
Yeah. Would you say the stress was pretty high during that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stress ended up after working with you, and honestly, it was a conversation I had with somebody one day where they had asked me, have you given your business to the Lord? And as a new Christian, I had never thought of that. And actually, once I did that, then I really noticed a big shift in my stress levels.
Yeah. And you were, when we first started working together, and this happened before we were introduced, but you had sort of a silent partner that was sort of putting some pressure on the business. You had, I'm sorry?
And resentment
that he was putting on the business. You had a partner that was getting involved and engaged, but didn't have a really an official capacity.
Yep.
You had another guy that was running a division that we didn't, it was like a lot of fragmentation happening on the business. Kind of talk me through.
Right now.
Yeah. PTSD.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things. Initially, I had somebody that I engaged with originally that had seed money that he was going to plant into the business, and we didn't have that real heart-to-heart conversation as what did our business relationship look like. For me, it was, we're doing this together and together and together, and for him, it was, here's money, I'll advise, and that was it. And so I was really doing it alone, and I had the other small partner who just wasn't willing to put the extra effort in, and then I, again, trying to expand and do divisions and work with family, which just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a big area initially. I had a little bit of training, like a class I could have taken or just something, of just like, hey, these are the pitfalls to look out for.
Right.
These are the do's and don'ts. Here, this is what a contract looks like. This is how you protect yourself and your family. And I really would have benefited from, like, even like a 4-week intensive, just something to really help me kind of understand just basic business.
Yeah. Talk me through, you haven't even gotten to us working together yet. Like, we're still in history here. So talk me through the emotion, the feeling, kind of some of the private conversations you were having with yourself, maybe sitting alone on the couch. Not that I don't ever feel like you were desperate and depressed, but you were definitely facing some, oh crap, what do I do stresses. So maybe talk me through some of that emotion. Not the solution, but the emotion.
Honestly, it was, do I even want to do this?
Yeah.
Honestly, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
This is a lot of responsibility. This is a lot of stress for not a lot. I was making more money as a union electrician, right? Mm-hmm. And so that thought goes through your mind of, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And, I think a big message there too is to just continue. There's like that hurdle you got to get over.
Yeah.
And I think having you come into my life and other people as well, like my current business partner, Mike, that really helped solidify where I went. But like initially I didn't even realize how bad it was.
Yeah.
I really had no grasp on my P&Ls, on anything.
Yeah.
I had no idea. We were, like you said, we were $500,000 in debt, and it was probably even maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And along with making,
because it was growing. Like even when like what I think people don't understand is when we met, you were $500,000 in debt, but there were some real fundamentals missing. That number could have quickly escalated, and actually was escalating when we got together had we not put a plug in that.
Stop the bleeding.
Yeah. And stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Now you're Skyline Electrical Services. You serve in the Northwest. The market was already there for your business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you had to make yourself known, but you didn't really have any work to do to educate people on the need for electrical services. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say there's that, and then really understanding how do people even know I exist?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't just sit there and wait for the phone to ring every day.
Right.
And, and initially when we started the business, we had, kind of my end to starting the company was I was building a lot of Planet Fitnesses at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of our initial, like, hey, we got big projects. I mean, they're $250,000 jobs, and we were doing quite a few of them, but eventually that dried up.
Yeah.
Eventually that went away.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah.
So what do you do when the work that you used to do in your niche or whatever dries up? What do you do? How do you evolve and expand through that? And so it was an interesting couple years as we kind of developed who we were in the marketplace.
One of the things that you and I focused on, so your market was already there. We didn't need to do market validation. Yeah. We didn't need to do market education. You were an electrician, a really good electrician before you started.
Some would say the best.
Some would say the best. I mean, I was going to say that, but I thought it might make you embarrassed. But you were a really good electrician before you started the company. Electrical services is in the construction trade. That is a known commodity that is needed. You can't have a building that you're going to live in without electrical services.
Nope.
Or a business that you're going to operate without electrical supply. So we didn't need to do that. But one of the things that you and I focused on, maybe you can talk us through this, is you were taking jobs that you shouldn't have been taking. There was no intentionality to the way you were bidding jobs so the market was there, but how did that transition take? But talk me through kind of the before and the after of really identifying which projects should we do versus ones we should not.
I mean, paying attention to tracking projects was huge, so that in the end we knew, hey, are we even making money? Really paying attention to the labor hours and the material, and how are we even procuring material? Are we buying it ahead of time? Are we buying it in lump? And not doing that is what killed us, and honestly, just so much guessing. And there's still times when we still, throw a dart at a dartboard and kind of guess. Yeah. Because it's a lot of what estimated is anyways. But you take a lot of, now it's okay, we've seen our history, we've seen the pattern. Right. Let's pay attention to the pattern. Yeah. Hey, when we do these types of jobs, we don't make any money. Right. Or we thought we did, but we didn't, whatever with the tracking software we were using, or we were using too many different softwares instead of one software. And there was just so many different areas. And so I think the biggest thing for us that really helped was finding a software that worked well with what we were doing. Yeah, I would combine that with the idea that we needed to have a corporate standard for our gross margin on every project. Yes. You remember we walked through. We had to figure that out, though. You had to figure that out. What did that look like? Yeah. What is it? Because for some businesses, it could be 50-55%. Yeah. For some businesses, it might be 35% of your revenue that you actually retain in gross profit. For yours, it was somewhere around 45%, if I remember. Something like that, yeah. Somewhere around 45%. We had to figure that out. And then you and your partner had to make a decision that we are no longer submitting estimates that don't meet this expectation unless as a group, we talk us through that, kind of that decision-making shift. Yeah, that was very true. And, we adjusted that a little bit so part of our market strategy was relationship. Right. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just, okay, a job comes in, we bid it. It was, hey, contractor XYZ, I want to work with you. this is flat rate pricing.
Yeah.
And so we really kind of wagered on the more projects we do, we're going to end where we want to end. Some might be winners, some might be a little bit of a loser, but we're going to always end in that mark. And history showed that.
Yeah.
And so I think really identifying those jobs, really even like, because we, at one point, we had our general construction side. And
yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah. And I think that was like that method and really understanding that really shown a lot more there than the electrical side. Because for electrical, I can only charge so much.
Right.
In anything you do, I can only charge so much for the job I'm doing.
Right.
And, of course, we've all seen the contractors that charge double what they should be charging. And,
and the ones that charge half of what they should be charging.
Charge half or they're working out of the back of a car.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, you try to educate the customers as best you can. And I always laugh because there are certain contractors that I won't name. But when a client of mine says, oh, I had, them come out and look, I'm like, I can guarantee you right now I'm going to beat them.
Yeah.
Every time. And so, but playing with that, I got to have morality. I can't overcharge. I can't undercharge. I got to be right in that middle and really sell ourselves and really lean heavily on our communication skills and our ability to like build and grow relationships. And hey, when you call me, I'm going to pick up my phone every time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that creates value as well for our clients and the customers and the contractors that we work with.
Yeah. Real quick, I noticed you haven't joined our school. If you find this content valuable, we have more in-depth, behind-the-scenes training at Scroggins Business Academy. Your support allows us to continue making content just like this for you.
But
I want to focus on two things in that, because you mentioned it, right? You started to do relationship-based pricing with the contractors that you were doing repeat business with. And I remember back to a discussion that we had about that is okay as long as we're making up the difference that we're sacrificing in margin on efficiency with that client. You don't have to repeat sell them. Correct. You don't have to learn the project again. You don't have to, tell me how. What's that?
It's rinse, wash, and repeat.
It really is.
Well, and then a lot of that too, honestly, it gets us in the house.
Yes.
Right. So I'll take a little less money if I'm in somebody's house and I'm not having to take money I would normally spend on marketing and advertising.
Correct.
That I've taken a little bit less money up front. Now I'm in their house. Now teaching my guys how to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a big part of it is like, are we teaching our employees the whole business?
Right.
This is how we operate. This is what we do. When this comes in, this is how we quote.
Yeah.
And so all of our guys have learned how we quote stuff. And so when they're in front of somebody, they can walk with confidence.
Yeah.
They can talk to them. They can answer the questions that they're going to not be like, well, hold on a second. Let me call my boss.
Yeah.
And really empower them to make decisions and then learning and failing from that as well.
Yeah. So margins can be fluxed a little bit when you're getting efficiencies and economies of scale, or you make a conscious decision on the board, right? The partners and the coach.
Yep.
Hey, we're doing this job at, if your target's 45, we're doing this one at 40, but here's the justifiable reasons for that. Yeah. Well, business owners, you've worked with now some business owners. Oh, yeah. Wouldn't you say, or would you agree, maybe you have a different opinion, but wouldn't you agree that review and making an intentional decision is one of the downfalls of many businesses out there, that they don't actually make a proactive decision, they're just reactive?
Correct. Yeah, they're not either learning from their past mistakes and they're just keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yep.
Or they don't have forethought to think, how can I be better? Yeah. How can I grow? How can I be wiser and smarter? One of the big things that we did to cut, because there's only so many areas you can cut costs. Right. And because that savings there will actually increase your margins as well. Right. Was procuring material at a cheaper discount. Yeah. So going to 3 or 4 different vendors and saying, hey, this is what I need. What's your price? Right. And so my partner's done a really good job at that. And we have our own little mini warehouse now at the office, and just being diligent and not just saving on labor, but saving on material, being more efficient, having the material there. So now you're saving guys having to go to supply houses every day, and time is money in that regard.
100%. It's so interesting with contractors, and I've said this to you guys, when business is booming and you can't get a contractor to come out, it's almost like you guys are bucking the supply and demand curve, because you're chasing your way to the bottom. Yep. And who's the lowest price and how cheap can I do? And instead of having intentional pricing with the right clients, with an intentional profit margin that is going to be there, that you can make really good educated decisions on variances for, I think that's a better strategy to profitability. And I think you've experienced some of that.
Well, we have, and that's why we actually don't do some of the work that's available. There's electrical industry is huge. Yeah. But we don't do a lot of new construction for that reason, because it is it's that race to the bottom.
It's the race to the bottom.
And you just have to have guys like, I want to pay my guys well.
Yeah.
I want to pay them, like we pay them well above scale. I mean, we're a union company, and so we have a bare minimum, and we pay all of our guys more than the bare minimum because, I want them to have a good life.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, and then by treating
well, and you don't have turnover in your
literally
no turnover in your company, which is so odd in the trades,
yes.
right? That you don't have turnover. They're always looking for the greener grass on the other side, and not in. I mean, I've been around your company now, I think for 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and I don't think I've heard you talk about getting. You promote guys, and I think you've launched a couple of guys, but not real turnover where somebody's looking for a better deal.
No, and I think that, and then again, it goes into creating a culture.
Yeah,
that people want to be at. You got to get people to. It's that law of the buy-in, right?
Yeah,
you got to get people to buy into what you're doing and feeling a part of it.
Yeah,
and yes, it's not their company, but I want them to feel like it is.
Yeah,
to think about, and when they make decisions, they're making it for not easeability, or they want to leave early, but they're making it for the betterment of the company.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's transition in this market and offering conversation a little bit more uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because one of the things that happened with you, like many people, is you see opportunities to diversify your offering. And you were a electrical contracting company that had residential and commercial, you and your partner, and then along the way picked up a general contracting, I believe it was decks and awnings or something like that, right? Is that right?
It was.
And you began to diversify, and there were really familial reasons for some of that, but maybe talk through the struggles of diversifying sort of out of your main focus into that, and the relationships that went with it, and kind of how all that developed.
There's a few questions in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we decided, had an opportunity to start general contracting side, to where it was kind of pitched to where it was, I didn't have to do anything. It was just going to happen and be successful and profitable, and trying to keep overhead low. And
I want to stop and make note there that it's always pitched that I don't have to do anything.
I know. It just, and I would say I didn't do a lot.
Right.
But when I really started, initially it was just kind of like, we got to invest some money, and we got to do it, and we got to pump money into marketing and all these things. And again, then you came on board and really started to show me the bigger picture about how to look at a P&L, how to really understand profit and loss, how to really understand margins, and are we even making good choices? Should we even be doing these jobs, right? And so after you teaching me, and after I started, okay, and maybe I should probably start paying attention, because it doesn't seem like we have much money.
Right.
And then I started doing, breaking it down and really going after it and really giving it more attention than I initially wanted to or had time for. Really recognized that, this is being ran into the ground, too much overhead, and we're not bidding jobs properly, and
well, and that person had a real resistance to reporting profit.
Yes,
a real resistance to showing estimates before they went out, and being accountable to the new corporate culture of this is where our profit margin needs to be. And that was a real challenge in that business. Talk about the diversity of that business as well. Like you tangentially running a business that wasn't in your main kind of electrical contracting.
Yeah, not my wheelhouse.
Not your wheelhouse at all. Talk about the struggles there with that, like the frustration.
I mean, you have to have a lot of trust. Right. Yeah. And especially, I had family working for me, helping me with that whole thing. And when it's family, it's a little harder to communicate because you have that line. And then it's also, you want to trust them. You want to know that they have the best interest and they're putting in the work and the effort. And then when you're not seeing that play out, it was really frustrating.
Yeah.
You try to have the conversations, but pride would get in the way.
Yeah.
Or, I've been doing this for 30 years and I know better.
Yeah.
Or, I just can't charge that, or whatever the excuse was at the time, and not feeling like I could be the owner that I needed to be, right? And not being validated for where I had gone in my life and all the things that, the reasons why, hey, let's do something different for a minute because what we're doing now isn't working.
Right.
Right. And then, and then you try to. Right. And then you try to get them to do it, but there's still resistance, and and I think for me in that season was really recognizing and paying attention, not because there's a different aspect of, yes, we can look at the numbers, and numbers usually don't lie.
Right.
But there's also the aspect of, are we trying too hard to try to make something work?
Yeah.
Right. We're trying to shove that golf ball through a garden hose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, like, sure, we could do it, but it's really difficult, and it's not going to be worth it in the end, and it's going to sacrifice all these things over here. And so once I finally came to that realization.
Yeah.
And it finally was like, okay, this has to stop.
Right.
Even that alone took 3 months to unwind all of the mistakes. We rebranded. We were doing new marketing campaigns. We were buying assets. We were trying everything I could, but it was just one of those things that I had discovered, and it's kind of been my now philosophy in business and life of just not trying to force my will.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing that that's not always what's best for me.
Right.
And not even just in business, but in my emotional state, my spiritual state.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think for that was a huge, with your help as well, coaching me through all of that, because it wasn't just business coaching. You were now coaching me how do you exit this company and exit this whole thing, and helping. I mean, there was a moment you even had a meeting with all three of us separately to try to gain like what's really going on behind the scenes. Who are these people? And which was really helpful.
Yeah.
We learned. I mean, I think you learned a lot who you were dealing with.
I really did. I was like, whoa, yeah.
He's an interesting individual.
Yeah.
And so I think when we really start to, like my partner and I always now say, like, the problem is never in the field. The problem always starts at the top.
It does.
If we're sitting here and I'm blaming my guys in the field for either installing or whatever they're doing, it means I'm not doing a good enough job either training them, equipping them, providing for them. And so it really got us to really refocus that and really focus on us.
Well, and this is jumping around a little bit, but one of the other challenges that presented was that you had 3 leaders trying to run this organization, and it really created this 3-headed dragon that was very difficult to manage or find efficiencies in. And 2 of the 3 leaders were kind of pulling in the same direction, but the third one was really pulling in a different direction, which created a lot of tension on the business. And I don't know if people recognize quite how much that causes profit to leak. When you're divided at the top, you sacrifice efficiencies, messaging, vision, focus, accountabilities. I mean, kind of everything. Would you say that was true in your company?
100%. Yeah, it's really it's really unfortunate, and I think that's where it's really important to really, pay attention to who you're having around you.
Yeah.
Who you're aligning yourself with, whether it's in business, whether it's in any relationship. I think it's important to be cautious of that and even have some of those groundwork conversations up front.
Yeah.
If this happens, what do we do?
Yeah.
And even now, since it's just the 2 of us with Mike and I, we have actually an agreement that if we don't agree, we actually go to you.
Yes.
And it's happened one time where we didn't agree on a scenario. We didn't agree on something, which hardly ever happens.
Right.
Him and I are very in tune with everything, but we had a disagreement and we took it to you individually, and you helped navigate that situation. And then it ended amicably. There was no issues. We kind of deferred it to a third party that has outside bias that's not, in the midst of the emotional state of it. And I think having those little like mechanics, really help for, I don't want to be resentful. Right.
Yeah.
Because again, even that, when you start to now become resentful, now my day thinks of resentment and frustration, and I'm not focused on the mission. I'm not focused on today and what I need to do for today. And so I think all those things play an impact that we don't normally see.
Absolutely. And the other thing that it allowed you guys to do, which I've appreciated being part of those conversations, is that it makes the main thing the main thing.
Yes.
Right. This wasn't about Alex being right or Mike being right. This was like what's right for the business, for those involved, and that's, such a great move, because I'm not motivated for you to win or for him to win. No. I have a responsibility to make sure the business wins and what's the best decision there. So that's been really, really kind of cool to watch. You mentioned something a minute ago that I want to dig a little bit deeper into. You mentioned I taught you how to read P&Ls and to focus on your financials and to make decisions through your financials and what's being reported, their projections and, managing estimates, all that. Kind of talk through sort of the pre and the post of that situation, because that is really one of the harder things to get business owners to do, is really understand that the financials are a business decision tool.
Yeah.
Not a measure of your success and you get to go spend a bunch of money, but they literally are a business decision tool. Talk about some of the revelation there.
Yeah, I mean, the revelation is it exists.
It is.
You have to
financials are a thing. Like
you have to pay attention to it. And I'm not perfect at it. That's why I have accountants. That's why we have bookkeepers that do what they do. And but doing a monthly audit and looking at it and just making sure that what we're doing is working.
Yeah.
Right. And making sure that, hey, we were really busy. But busyness doesn't equal profit.
Right.
We skew it and that's what kind of even what happened on the construction side, is that they were really busy. Well, and it's happening in the electrical side of, oh man, I'm just really busy. Well,
Yeah.
that must mean I'm making money. But okay, then you look at it and you're like, okay, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of jobs really far away, and my gas bill this month was twice what it normally is, or whatever it might be. It just really gives you a snapshot of the different areas.
Yeah.
Man, why do we spend more money this month on marketing than we normally do? Is there a leak? Do we accidentally approve something, or you know what I mean? Like it really showed me the leaks that we were having,
Yeah.
and the different areas of, why are we spending this kind of money with no return?
Right.
Really
Right.
looking at, and not even just P&Ls, but across the board. Like, there's multiple areas that we do marketing with, whether it's Google, Yelp, Angie's, whatever. And is that returning its investment?
That's right.
What's my ROI on that on that marketing?
Right.
And so really getting you to have that eye, right, is a lot of what you taught me through that aspect, was having the eye to look at the details of it.
Yeah. Because revenue lies.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember, when we first started meeting, we are $5 million, and I'm like, but are you making money? And you're like,
No.
I'm 500,000 in debt and going further. Does that no? Revenue is a liar, right? Everybody focuses on top line revenue, and listen, a business without revenue is not a business. So you got to have revenue.
You say it's the love language.
Profit is the love language of the business, right? Yeah. And so, but many people, they fall for the false identity of success because they've got growing revenue without ever stopping to look at what are the mechanics going on in that financial statement, and then really learning how to read the balance sheet, because that's real.
Well, it is, because you want to, honestly, my goal every year is I want to spend every dollar we've made. Right? I want to pay less in taxes.
Yeah.
Whether it's investing in property, whether it's buying assets, whether it's whatever we're doing, or taking a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. I mean, you got to watch that, because if you let it go, sure, you made a ton of money, but welcome to tax man.
Right.
You want to get that number down at the end of the year, and you also don't want it to be negative, because then it starts looking bad over time.
Yeah.
We had a couple years of some bad negatives. We've had some good years of good positives, and it's about evened out through the 8 years we've been in business now.
Yeah.
And so I think seeing that tide turn, personally, I like, and I do ministry as well, and so I like to, one day a week I do ministry, and I work 4 days a week basically, and I'm available on the 5th day. But like, for me, that's my love language. Is like, I own a business to have time. Right. It's not, my business doesn't own me.
Right.
Because when you start doing that, my family struggles, I struggle, all those things. And so I think, and all in all, in doing all this and getting to the place where we're at, sure, I could give the business 100% of my time and energy, but then everything else suffers.
Well, again, let's kind of stop and analyze that for a second. You took some time to step back and say, what do I really want? Yeah. Right? So many business owners are running full on out without ever stopping to identify, what am I really trying to accomplish? Yeah. What's the real goal? Your real goal isn't to grow I've never heard you say your goal is to grow the largest electrical company in the Northwest.
Nope.
That is not what you're trying to do. You're trying to grow an adequate sized electrical company that gives you freedom to do the things that God's put on your heart and on your mind, and blesses your family.
Absolutely.
And I think there was a powerful moment that took place when you literally identified that. Like, I'm not in this to give every waking moment to this. I mean, kind of talk through that.
It's true, because money sure, we need money, and money is very important, but money can just control you if you allow it.
It really can.
And so I wasn't chasing the money. Money doesn't bring me happiness. And I have nice things, and I've done fun things, and those things are good. But it wasn't where my heart was. Yeah. Right. I wanted to be able to watch my daughter grow up and be at every soccer game. Yeah. I wanted to be able to not work weekends. Yeah. Right? I wanted to be able to go on a mission trip in the middle of the week. And, and I'm blessed to have the business partner that I have, because we pick up the slack for each other. Exactly. So we'll be gone. He just got back from a 2-week vacation, road trip. Right. No big deal. I took care of everything for him, and we're that perfect size. Yeah. There's 2 of us in the office. We have 8 guys in the field. We're doing $3 million in revenue every year, really consistently. We make the money we want to make. I get to do the things I want to do. Yeah. I get to leave at 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. Right. Eventually, when I pick up golf, it'll be really helpful. Yeah.
So, I want to really kind of dive in on something you just said, because many people watching would say, oh, that's really easy to say that money doesn't motivate me or drive me or make me happy when you have money. Sure. Right. That could be a perspective. But I've known you now on the I have money and the post I'm making money kind of relationship. That perspective you gained before you ever had the kind of lifestyle that you have this minute. Maybe talk about that intentional shift in your heart and mind that allowed you now to walk in what you're walking. Because I've seen you before.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened, honestly, when we retired my wife. My wife was a loan officer for a bank, and she made more money than I did. And we saw the implications that was having on our family, mainly with my daughter.
Yep.
And so we decided to retire her, which obviously cut our income in half. And it allowed us to say, okay, well, what's important?
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to have a new car payment. I don't need to go on 5 vacations. It really got us to look inward at what was important,
Right.
and to cut back on things that were not important.
Yeah.
And then as time progresses, and that's just really shifted our focus to family first, relational stuff, helping people. Now that, we're a little bit more blessed than we used to be, I can help more people. I can do more fun things for people. And we honestly give more money away now than we ever have, which is the most backwards principle I've ever learned in all this. Is I feel like the more money I give away, the more money I make.
Yeah.
Which is a kingdom principle in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And I can't stress it enough, and again, testament to my business partner as well, who's very willing to give.
Yeah.
And so our business gives, and we give.
Yeah.
And in that doing that, it's blessed us more than we could have ever even thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
On top of paying off all the debt too.
I mean, that is a hallelujah moment.
Dude.
I mean, that
took us
so
3
good.
years. And now, what's funny is I was just talking to Mike about this a few weeks ago. And I'm like, what did we do? Like, aside from like paying attention and just being intentional and like, but it's not like we went and did these crazy jobs and had these crazy big wins. We just showed up. We just showed up and were faithful, and we did what we needed to do. We learned from our mistakes, and after 3 years, all of it got paid off.
Yeah, yeah. I would go further than that. I mean, that's a great way to look at that, and you did show up.
Yeah.
You also were very good students to execute on the principles that actually allowed you to move without having to say, oh my God, we got to have $500,000 and write a check. You didn't have to do that. It was very systematic change and growth, but paying attention to the fundamentals, executing on the right strategies, eliminating profit leaks, and showing up every day consistently allowed you to walk in a real powerful place.
Well, and I'd honestly include in there communication with our vendors, with the people that we owed money to. Is making, those are not fun phone calls to make. Saying, hey, I owe you $100,000 and I can't pay you for 24 months. But I'll pay you interest, and we'll figure something out. And by the grace of God, all of them worked with us. And we were able to crawl out of that and then no longer have that monthly, $10,000, $15,000 bill every month. Right. Which is very, very nice for the income.
Which is huge. Huge. I don't want this to be salesy. I don't like that kind of environment, but I do want people to understand our relationship from that coaching, mentoring standpoint. And so maybe, again, I don't like the salesy aspect, but I do want it to be real. Maybe talk about a couple of maybe the highlight points for you on what it was like to work together. I mean, you hired me before I even had the pitch out of my mouth the first day.
Can't start for 2 months.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah. Maybe talk about kind of our working relationship and what you experienced. It's one thing for me to talk about it, but it's a whole nother very real and honest.
Yeah, it was super blessing. You were always available, whether it be personal stuff too. It wasn't just limited to only Skyline. If I was having a relational problem or an employee issue, you were always available for me to lend advice and mentorship. I can't stress enough how I think it's important for everybody to have a mentor in their life, and you've been that for me. And our relationship has obviously grown since I hired you initially, and then we became friends, and we're here where we're at now. But it was just this blessing that I didn't even realize I needed. Right? It was something that when we remove, I can do it all. If I bootstrap it and I'll handle it and I'll learn it and I'll figure it out. But why? You've already gone before me. You figured it out. You know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about.
Right.
You know how to. You're really good. An area I'm not good at is having difficult conversations, calling people's bluff, calling people out, but in a loving, kind way. Because you want people to be their best selves. You want them to be honest. You want them to recognize, what they need to do to fix something if something's broken. And so having you to surround me in that area was, being a weakness of mine, and then bringing you in to help strengthen it was huge. And so I think it's just really important to have somebody who, there's that saying of you never want to be the smartest man in the room.
Right.
Which is why I have you around a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Always increase the size of the room.
Right. And I think it's just one of those things of it's so invaluable. And it goes into a lot of just investing in yourself. Yeah. So often we're like, I got to invest in the business. But man, I'm part of the business. Right. Why are we not investing in ourselves to put people, whether it's conferences, whether it's seminars, all those things are good, but you can't beat the the one-on-one.
Yeah.
You can't beat the relational aspect that happens of, if I text you at 5 p.m. on a Sunday, you're going to text me back.
Yeah.
Right. Of like, not that that's the expectation, but there's that level of, you take it seriously.
Yeah.
You take it as though it's yours.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I think that was really beneficial. And obviously it showed, because look where we're at now.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's no coincidences, right?
Running in profit.
Yeah.
Running in profit,
Absolutely.
which is so exciting. Well, listen, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing today.
Appreciate you having me.
It's an honor always to celebrate the success stories and what's happened. And you're a true testament to kind of plugging in, doing the fundamentals, executing on the strategies, and really making it happen. And so if you had one thought for somebody who is watching this podcast and they were questioning, do I engage a coach? Do I engage a consultant? Do I engage in personal development? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say, what do you have to lose? I say, you're just missing out. I encourage everybody, no matter where you're at in life, there's something you don't know. There's a different perspective that can help. Whether even for 6 months, right? I would highly encourage everybody that's listening to this to invest in yourself, to hire, whether it's Eric or whether it's somebody in that same field that can help you grow where you're at. I think you're missing out on something that you don't even realize.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. This is a new channel where we are producing valuable content just like this every week. Subscribe and ring the bell so that you can be notified every time we drop a new piece of content.